Hi everyone, it's Melly here. I'm just come back to do a quick tutorial today on turning and stuffing your toys. Now I'm going to be using the new dinosaur pattern as the demonstration piece, but you could be turning and stuffing any of your toys. And I'm just going to give you a few tips and tricks along the way and show you the tools I like to use and how I like to go about stuffing my patterns to get the best results. So I have my little dinosaur here and he has been fully sewn. As you can see, I've trimmed all the seam allowances with pinking shears. That is optional, but I like to do that to ensure that I get nice smooth edges and also don't have too much fraying and mess as I'm working. So I'm just going to grab this guy and I'm going to turn him right side out. Now there's a couple of different ways you can do that. You can use a long thin tool like my paintbrush stuffing tool or a chopstick or something like that to just grab any old point, just stick it in there, and then you can push that through the turning gap. Or another option, which some people like to use for turning and stuffing, is to use a hemostat. That's a medical supply that you can get very easily, like a pair of tweezers, but it has nice grippy parts at the end there. And what you can do is just slide that in through the turning gap, grip an end point that you like. So I'm going to grip the end of his tail, and just grip it in the end of the hemostat, and then pull that through. Okay. With this one, he's quite a large fellow, so you could actually just turn him through with your fingers too. Those other tips come more into play, especially when you are doing long, thin parts. But you know, with something this big, you could really use anything that you have to hand. Knitting needle, anything that you might have. So I'm just going to quickly continue and turn him out. Okay, so once you have him fully turned out, what you're going to do is just again use your long thin tool, whatever it might be, and we're just going to push all of those curves out nicely. So we're just going to make sure that everything is properly turned out, make sure that everything looks like it's sewn properly. This is kind of a bit of quality control at the same time. Make sure that all your seams are well sewn, that everything looks right, there's no gathers or pinching, that you can still go ahead and fix at this time. The last thing you want is to start stuffing and then realise there's a problem and have to unstuff and turn and so again. So this is just a great opportunity to do that quality control. So I've turned everything out with the smooth end of my turning tool, paintbrush tool, which I'll explain to you in a moment. And I've just turned everything out nicely. Now you'll see that I might have a few little bits of thread coming out here. Some of those are just going to pull out. If not, we'll trim those off at the end. So he's all turned out nicely. So what I'm going to do is now start stuffing. Now this is where I want to quickly explain my paintbrush tool that I like to use for stuffing. This is my favourite tool I have when it comes to toy making. So it's just a simple round-headed brush, the cheapest one you can find. So this is like a $2 one that you can buy just at sort of cheap $2 shops or cheap craft supply places. And I've got a size 7, which is fairly large. You can go smaller than that. And what I've done is I have trimmed down the bristles to make them a lot shorter. I'd say about 3/8 of an inch or 1 centimetre. And you can go even shorter than that if you like, but don't go too short. And then you just want to messy up those bristles. So I want those bristles, as you can see, to be shaggy and messy. So just ruin the paintbrush, basically. Ruin it as much as you can to get that really nice and bristly. Now I find that this allows me to stuff really well to all the end points. So I'll show you that as I go along. Again, you can use a hemostat, and I know some people do, but I find that it's not as useful for getting bits to the end points, especially once you've already stuffed mostly. So while this is a great tool, I like to have it on hand. I would normally do everything with just the paintbrush tool, and I find this the most sort of versatile tool that I own that does everything within the stuffing process. Okay, so then I'll go on to the actual stuffing quality. Please make sure you're using a quality polyester stuffing. This one here is my favorite one. I will try and put a little note below this tutorial to show you what the brand is that I use. I actually buy it wholesale in bulk, but I know that they are now selling it retail, so I can give you the details of the brand. Basically what you want is a really good quality polyester toy fill. You want to be able to try and roll it into a ball and it remains an organic shape. If you have a stuffing and when you're trying to roll it into a ball, it starts forming a ball, that's what it's going to do inside your toy, okay? So it's going to create clumps. You want something that keeps its organic shape, so it's going to fill out all the nice pieces as you go. So this is a really good polyester toy fill. So then what I'm going to do is I like to start by stuffing to the ends to start with. Now generally I always stuff the head first, but it's not going to be fully stuffed at that point. It's just going to get so it's nice and firm so I can see the shape, and so I've got plenty to the ends before I start doing the middle. And then you'll see at the end I'm also going to push more towards the ends to really smooth out and get out that shape. So I've got a piece of stuffing here. What I do is I just chuck him into the hole there. My little tool, the bristles are going to kind of grip onto that stuffing. This is why I love the paintbrush tool, and maneuver it into the head. So you'll see there I'm got that stuffing nicely into the nose. So this is why we get these bristles nice and rough, so that it grips onto the stuffing. So you can see how that gripped on. It grips on, and that's what it can do inside, so that you can push it to where you need it to go. So again, another clump. I pop it into the turning gap, and I push it to the end of the head. So I'm just going to keep going to the ends of the head. Okay, so as you can see there, I've mostly stuffed the head. It's not fully stuffed as firmly as I would like. There's still some give there, but I just want to show you, I can't really stuff it perfectly yet until I stuff the rest, because it's now going to start to spill out of the neck there. It needs some stuffing there to hold it. But I just want to show you quickly how with this paintbrush tool you can get this stuffing to exactly where you want to. So as you can see, I can see that there's some little wrinkling there at the top of the head, so I want to get more towards the top of the head. So what I can do is the paintbrush tool will grip onto it and let me, you can see it going into the top of the head there. It'll let me guide it to where I want it to go. Now this is probably going to spill out still at this stage because there's no stuffing in the neck, but I just wanted to show you how wonderful this tool is and how it really helps. So again, we've got the same here on the sides of the mouth. What I can do is get a little bit there, grab it with my tool and maneuver it to that spot. Okay, so you'll see how those wrinkles are now mostly smoothed. Now I'll do most of that again at the end as I mentioned, but I just wanted to show you how great this tool is. So now that I've mostly stuffed the head, I'm going to go to the other extremity and get some stuffing into his tail. So I'll pop him through the hole there and get it through to the end. Right, so try and make sure you get it in there really nicely, all the way to the end, nice and firmly. I want to make sure it's not going to get lost later on. Right, and now I'm going to stuffing the rest of the body. So what I'm going to do is just start putting some random bits into the middle just to start giving it some structure, and I'm also going to start putting some bits into the legs. So while I'm doing this, I'm probably just going to speed up the process so that you're not watching everything as we go along, but you'll be able to get an idea of what I'm doing, and then we'll do the finishing touches together. Okay, so as you can see, he is mostly stuffed now. I'm quite happy with how he is in certain areas. So the tail is feeling nice and firm. His body, hopefully you can see there, I'm pushing quite hard. There's not a lot of give anymore, so I'm happy with most of the body. I'm not quite so happy with the feet yet, especially since they need to support him. And I also want to do a little bit more work on the head because he still is fairly soft, and I can smooth out some of those shapes a whole lot more. Now it's up to you if you're more of a get it done kind of person. This is perfectly fine now to be sewn up and continue working with, but I just wanted to show you if you wanted to perfect it a little bit more, just what I like to do. So You probably noticed as I was stuffing that I stuffed a lot more than perhaps some people might do. Now the way I'm able to do that is because of this tool. So you probably saw I was able to put pieces of stuffing right at the hole there and then grab that and just stuff it in. Now you can actually keep adding more for quite a long time because the fabric has got some stretch in it. So it will allow you to put more into certain areas as you go, which is what I really love about stuffing. You can almost sort of, I always laugh and think about it as being like liposculpture. It's like you're getting the little bits of fat into the areas that you want them. And that's what I'm going to do now with the head and show you that a little bit more. So as I mentioned, it's about sort of perfecting out those shapes. So I hope you can see that here, that I'm not that happy with that top of that head. There's a little bit of a flatness there, which I'm not too happy with. Also, there's still a little bit of sort of wrinkling there on the sides. So I want to put little bits of stuffing along the sides there. I want to get a little bit more up to the top, as well as it just needs some in general still because it's a little bit loose, especially there in the neck. So I'm going to grab a few little bits. So I'm going to be working with smaller pieces now because I'm really just trying to get those little bits into the little sections that I want. So I'm going to put that there at the entrance, get my little stuffing tool, make sure that's gripped on there nicely. And I'm going to kind of hold his body down with my left hand here so that I can maneuver with this paintbrush and get it through there and up into his head. I hope you saw that getting up into his head. Now, if you want to maneuver it even easier, get it close to the edge of him. And then you just have to move it along that edge and into the head. So at the moment I'm just getting a little bit more into the head in general because it wasn't quite full enough for my liking. So I'm just getting him a little bit more plumped out. And then I'll get a bit more specific with the places I put it. So I'm just going to make sure I get this bit right to the ends. Okay, so that's smoothed out those a little bit on that side. I'm going to do the same on the other side to get it right to this section of his nose here. And now into that other section of his head. Okay, so he's already getting a lot firmer now as I'm adding more, and those shapes are getting more smoothed out, which is lovely. I still want to get that little bit up there, so just going to grab a little bit of stuffing, get him in, make sure it's gripped, because if it's not gripped it's not going to come along with you. And I'm going to push that to that top section, and I hope you can see what's happened there straight away. That flatness is gone and we now have a nice curve on the top of his head. So that's what this is so wonderful for, okay? It really gives you control to get to those end points and fill out all the curves and all the edges to get that really nice smooth result. Okay. So again, his head, I think his head's good now. I'm quite happy with the head. I'm just going to get a little bit more into the neck because the neck's still a little bit soft. And all I need now is a little bit more into his little paws. Now they're closer, so they're a little bit trickier, but I actually use my finger for this bit. I find that it's quite easy to just pop that there and just maneuver around with my finger to get that around the curve. Easiest part for this bit, if you're doing the dinosaur or something like it, those last little leg bits, that's already getting a bit firmer. They're easier to do with your finger. Do the other front leg on the other side. Into that one. So they're much better now. Very happy with that. So now all we need to do is just get a little bit more into this very end space. I want to make sure there's not kind of any dimpling. So right, so I think I'm pretty happy with him now. I think I stuff a lot firmer than a lot of people. People are scared to keep stuffing, but if you've made sure you've used your polyester thread for all your stitches, you've used a fairly short stitch length, such as 2 2mm, maybe even a bit shorter if you need to. If you've done all of that and your stitches are nice, tension was good on your machine, you're not going to split the seam. So you're really not. Polyester can just hold up to so much. And as I mentioned, the fabric's got a bit of give. So feel free to stuff and stuff and stuff. All right, so I'm going to do another video as well to show you how to sew closed our turning gap. So make sure you go check that one out next, as that will give you some more great tips. All right, have a good day. Bye.